We are back to module 6.3, where you continue with the discussion exercise with links between cells. Remember that this module is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. You can go check there to see the class now. You can either see the class from there, or you can go back there to see it again at your own pace. Feel free to use the go faster, go slower, yes, no options from the Zoom. If you need any assistance, please send a message in the chat and someone will help you. And the files for this exercise are all available on the student materials, okay?
Sorry, Julio, what directory are they in? 6.2, right?
6, well, I think they're on 6.2 because it is basically the same module. Okay.
So I see 6.1, 6.2, and 6.4, but no 6.3.
Oh, no, they are the same module, so everything's going to be 6.2.
Okay, so just to clarify, everything is in is in modules demo 6.2.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so sorry. So this is where we were before, right? We on the end of the last module, we did a simple model with links, where we just set up the simulation, and you got our solution with a single link between the cells, because that's all we have put in the maximum number of junctions options to be 1. And then the last thing we did, we changed this number, this parameter, from 1 to 2, 3, and higher. And all of you got this kind of outputs, where the more maximum junctions you allow, the more links your simulation forms. And in a simulation where it's 2-dimensional, where all the cells are compact and isotropic, they form some kind of hexagonal packing. 6 pretty much ensures that all your cells make links with all the neighbors that they have. Okay. So one thing that we did not play was with the lambda parameter and the target distance between the cells. So let's now restart this module by playing with this parameter. Choose a connective level between 1 to 6, okay? Maybe 2 or 3 is a good one to see drastic effects, okay? And then try to first decrease the target distance between the cells, okay, and see what you have, and then you increase it a little bit. So right now the target distance is set to be 7, which matches the diameter of the cells, right? So make it smaller, okay. Once you get smaller, then make it bigger to 8 or 9 and see what effect you have on the cell shapes. So please do this exercise and share your impressions on the chat, or if you wish, share a picture of it. This is what you should get, okay? If all of you is following along with the code, the exercise, if you decrease the target distance, what happened is that the cells will now, before they were happy being just side by side, but if you decrease it, they will actually start to squish together. So if you decrease the values below 7, like to 3 or to 1, okay, or even to 0, okay, you start to get a compression of your whole tissue, and you may see your whole tissue kind of compressing a little bit because of the effect of the energy, especially if you make the lambda value to be very high, you get this effect. On the other hand, if you just make a slight increase of the target distance, then the cells actually want to be a little bit further apart than they would normally do, okay? If you make it 8, the effect will not be drastic, but if you make it a little bit bigger, to 9 and 10, then what happens is that um, the surface of their tissue will be a little bit more rough because the cells touch each other and they move apart. They touch each other and they can start pushing one another out. Okay. And you can either do something that's more drastic, like if you set the target this to be 15, right? So already 2 cell diameters in between the cells. Okay, then you start to get things that looks like this picture that you have here on my right, or what Sharon has shared in the chat, where the cells are actually pushing each one apart, like this. Okay, so what's happening is that the cells are pulling apart. Okay, and of course, if you just set the maximum distance that they should break to be 20 lattice sites, they can pull apart up to 20 lattice sites and they will still be connected. If something comes and bring the cells together, they will pull apart. If some comes and bring the cells away, they actually go back to the target distance because that's what you set on your computer. Okay, this is up to you to decide what is reasonable or unreasonable. Here, the code gives you these options and you can play with these options to get the desired outcome that you see here. Okay. And of course, if you make the target distance, maximum distance to be 30 or 40, right? Very high, you can even, and then you can set your target distance to be 20 or 30, and then the cell is going to pull apart and going to be pulling apart until, and they will not break. If you set your target distance to be 20 and your maximum distance to be 10, then what you see is that the cells will pull apart and disconnect. They'll pull apart and disconnect. They want to go to the target distance of 20, but if you set the break to be 10, you lose the link halfway between. So in this case, you have cells that push and then detach. Okay. For this simulation that you see here, I make the target distance to be like something like 20, and I made the maximum distance to be 40. So you get something that is really drastic looking like that. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. So in this one, the third picture here, I set the target distance to be like 14 or 15. So the cells really pull apart one another. And what you see is that because the maximum neighborhood was 4, okay, that's what I have here. The cells make connection, they pull themselves apart. As they pull themselves apart, they start to have new neighbors. But because they already have already set up what links they will have, which have to have all those crossings of links within the cells. So even though the cell is far apart, is still connect to that cell that's far apart, is not connected to the cell that just came in contact with. Okay. So you can play with the links to get things that look like this or like that. Okay. It will be hard to justify biologically, but these are tools that you have in your hand, and it's up to you to make sure that they reproduce a pattern that makes sense, right? So that will be true for any model environment that you come up with. You have all these parameters. You can set the parameters in principle to anything you want. Only a subset of all the parameter space will actually be relevant biologically. Okay. Maybe there's some kind of biological system where this thing on the right is what's happening to the cells. Okay, but many things happen in biology. Anyway. Okay, any questions? Does this make sense? Okay. So basically, these are all the one thing that you can do. You can also play with those parameters directly on the player, right? Where you have the focal point plasticity parameter, you can and you find the maximum distance. You can make it bigger and smaller, right? And then you should see the cells kind of expanding and then condense, expand and condense by changing those values directly on the player. Okay. So the next exercise, which is going to be 6.2.2, I want to now start playing with 2 cell types instead of just one. Okay. So let's know this slightly more complex exercise. What I want to do, I want to use the comp cell wizard, okay, and create a simulation with 2 cell types and with links. And let's call the cell type green and the second cell type purple or G and P, okay, and give the colors accordingly, okay. And what I want to have is that once you get the base simulation, make only the cells of different types to have links, okay. Sorry, do not allow cells of different types of links. Make this base simulation, okay. And then what you can do, and the challenge here is once you have this base simulation created with 2 cell types, play with the links between the cells in order that you can induce cell type mixing between the cells, okay? And then play with the links again to try to induce cell type sorting for the cells to sort out between the cells. Okay. So that is the exercise. If you don't want to waste time, make the basic template of the model, you can directly the base code from file 6.2.2.zip, where the 2 files has already been where the 2 types are already there, the parameters are there, and you only have to modify them to induce either cell type mixing or cell type sorting. So that will be the challenge for this exercise. And I'm going to give 2 or 5 minutes for it to play with. And then I'm going to show you the 2 sets of parameters that can do either mixing or cell sorting. So what kind of change you want to make to the links to induce cell type mixing with links? The idea is that all the containers will be the same. If you're going to do either cell mixing or cell sorting, you have to do only through the links. That is the challenge here. So if you want to do cell type mixing with links, what strategies that you may use for that? So if you want to promote cell coupling with links, one way to do is make sure that you have enough force, and so the lambda parameter has to be high, doesn't need to be that much higher. But what you would definitely want to do is make the target distance between the cells to be very short. So not only the cells are touching here, but they actually are pulling each one towards each other. So you want to use a target distance that's smaller than what the cells normally have. Okay. And of course, if you want to mix between cells of different types, right? You want to create a link between those cells of different types and not create links between the cells of the same type. So purple and green should not be allowed with links. So if you try to do this, you may get induced mixing between different cell types. So if anyone got mixing to occur, please share the picture on the chat or tell us in the chat what you did. So Milene did this simulation that looks like you're trying the cell type sorting. So probably what you did, what I can see here is that you add links between purple cells, add links between the green cells, and do not allow links to have between cells of different types. And that you can clearly see that induce a little bit of cell sorting between them. So there's a good way to get the second part. Pete also tries cell sorting, but you only work a little, okay? Here's his code, okay? And share here. Again, use the same strategy as Milene. I can see that the green cells have links, the purple cells do not have links, but there is no links in between them. Okay, so actually you both try the hardest one to begin with. Try also the other one. Try to induce mixing between the cells. So try to have a purple cell surrounded by green cells and green cells surrounded by purple cells. You're not sure if this is mixed. Well, it looks more mixed than before. for sure, okay? One thing that you can try is to not allow links between cells of the same type. And you probably get a better outcome. Sharon got something that looks quite well mixed for sure. What did you do, Sharon, to get this outcome? It also got something that looks nice. Oh. Okay, Sheila, I also got a very good mixing, okay? So Sharon shared the code here. You see, she has 0 jumps between cell 1 and cell 1, 0 jump maximum rejecting cell 2 and cell 2, and up to 3 junctions between cell 1 and cell 2. Okay. Stephanie also got very good mixing between the cells. I cannot see the links here in your code. So if you want to see the link, Stephanie, make sure you go to the player on the menu visualization and select the FPP links there, so you can see the links as the other people also see. Okay. Okay, wow, that's great. Everybody's sharing their code. Not to go to at least their images. Okay, so I think you all got the mixing part to work. Okay, and I'll just close all this. And here I'm going to share my code. So this is how I make the mixing to happen on my end. Okay, I set the maximum number of neighbors between green and purple to 0, so they're not from connections. Okay, the maximum distance between green and purple I set to 7, which is about the cell, the normal cell distance from volume. Okay, so this will make sure that if the cell moves slightly away from each other, the link is broken, so that it will ensure some fluidity on the formation of the links. Okay, and the other thing that I did is that I set the maximum number of neighbors to be 3, because if you look at a well-mixed cell, you usually have 3 neighbors of the other type. Okay, there's no need to make 6. Okay, at least when you have half and half distribution of cells, 3 is a good one. And then I made the target distance between the cells to be 1. And I think that's what Sharon's mentioned, that you have to push to extremes. Okay, so if you use this configuration, you can very quickly get a cell mixing that looks like this. Okay, so this is a recipe that works. There might be other recipes that also induce cell mixing, but I guess all of you, from what I see in the pictures, did the same strategy, only allow links between cells of different types. Now, let's now to the other one, which is a little bit harder. How can you do cell sorting between the cells? Yes. No problem, Stephanie. Okay. So to get cell mixing, you only allow links between cells of different types. If you want to get cell sorting, what strategy you have to do? Do you have to also allow only links between cells of different types, or you have to to use the reverse strategy. So the other one from I can see from Elaine and Pete, okay, they both share the cell sorting, and you can see they both use the strategy of having only links between cells of the same type and not allow links between cells of different types. Okay, so yes, that you promote the clustering of the cells. Now, if you want to have one cell to sort, engulf the other, okay, you have to make the coupling between one cell types to be stronger than the coupling between the other cell type, right? So you maybe want to make the purple cells to grab to have a higher lambda or to pull the cells more closer than the green cells couple between the cells, for example, here or here. So you make the links between the cells of same type only, and you make one of those couplings be much stronger than the other one. Okay, so that's one strategy that you can use. Okay, well, I said sorting, not engulfment of one type and the other. So as long as they separate, it will look good. So just for interest of time, I'm gonna already share the code and the recipe that I have to induce sorting between cells. So that's what I use. I did not allow links between green and purple cells, only between green and purple. And what I did here, I make the coupling between green cells to be stronger. We have a higher lambda here than this other one, and allow more neighbors to be formed between green cells than allow neighbors between purple cells. So the purple cells, they want to cluster together, but the green cells cluster together more strongly. So my hope with that was that the green cells will sort toward the middle of the tissue, while the purple cells will go more towards the outside. Okay. This is a harder simulation to get because the sorting dynamics is much more slower because we have these islands that form, okay? And then and with links, it's even more harder for those little islands to escape and the tissue to sort out once completely engulfed by the other type. So you have to run simulation and wait very long. But if you use these parameters that I have here or something similar, you should be able to get something that sorts along this way. So this just go to show you that when you're dealing with multiple cell types, okay, you can still use the links and you can manipulate those links and the properties of those links to get different kinds of patterns. So those two simulations, we didn't change. All the cells have the same volume constraints, the same contact energies. The only thing you're changing is the links. And with only that is already enough to get very drastic difference by just making correct, appropriate choices of the FPP link parameters. Okay. So hopefully this already gives you another tool in your toolbox to play the simulation that you want. Okay. And the one on the right also shows that there are yet another way to induce cell sorting in tissues, right? We have talked about chemotaxis, right? Long-range signaling. We talk about adhesion energies, okay? We talk about cell surface contractility. And here's just going to be cell coupling. And there's a specific type of tissue where the cells actually make those long protrusions, and that is believed to actually induce cell sort in that system. Right now, I forgot the name of the tissue. It's some kind of bacteria that they form those very long links. I have seen talks about experimental talks about it. If James remembered the name of those cell types that seems to sort according to this mechanism, it exists. Okay, so yeah, different cells use different strategies to get the same kind of morphology at the end. Okay, so that's why it's very important that not only when you do your simulation, you focus on getting the correct morphology at the end, but to get the correct morphology using the correct mechanism. Okay, so you should know that the cells are pulling each other, okay, through protrusions, right? You have to induce cell sorting in your model with protrusions, with links like this, not with cell adhesions, okay? And conversely, if the cell sort is happening and the cells do not have protrusions, but maybe have difference in cadmium expression or some other adhesion molecule, then you should, in your model, try to produce a pattern using contact energies and not FP links. Okay, so the files for both simulations can be found 6.22a, 6.22b. You can download that in the student materials and use it. Okay, so is there any questions? If not, let's move to a new feature of FP links, which is the feature that you can not only play with FP links from the XML level, but you can also play with FP links from the Python level. Okay, and that's your next topic. Okay, in so many cases, you want us to look at the immediate environment of the cell at different time points and decide what the cell will do, okay, with its immediate neighbors. So you want to create links at cell in the mid simulation, or delete the links of the cell simulation, or make cells connect to other cells in the mid simulation because of some event or because some set of local conditions. Okay, so in many cases you want to manipulate the FP links through the Python level. Okay, and this can be done. The only thing that you have to do, you still have to select focal point plasticity plugin on the wizard. Okay, but then once you go to the XML, there is this option called local / that allows you to manipulate the target distance, the maximum distance, the lambda force between the cells from the Python level. Okay, so you can set the cells to have different properties based on whatever criteria you want. Okay, so if you go to the XML and uncomment the local tag, you'll be able to make all these manipulations from the Python level. And usually when you're doing the manipulation on the Python level, the other thing that you want to do, you want to make all the max number of junctions to 0. So CompCell will not make any link between cells unless you tell them explicitly to do it from the Python code. Okay, because if you leave the max number of junctions to 1 or some other number, as the cells come into contact, they're going to still make links. Okay, if you don't have completely control over which links are created and which are not, you just set the max number of junctions to 0, and then only the links that will appear is the one that you tell the cells to have. Make sense? So once you set this up on the XML level, as you work on open TweetDit and work from there, you can add and remove links to this option in TweetDit. You go ComC3D Python, focal point plasticity, okay? And you have all these options to first get information about the links that the cell currently has, create new links either internally or externally, okay? Delete existing links, okay? And change link properties. So you see here all the different properties that the links have. You can manipulate that, okay? And you can also grab a cell and visit all the links that the cell has with its neighbors. So you have also these visits loops that it can be generated and called from the Python app. Of course, there are many options here. We're not going to go through all. I'm going to just highlight here the anchor. Okay, good. You work on that. Anchor is, so usually when we talk about links, we're talking about links between a cell and another cell. So it connects the center of mass one cell with the center of mass another cell. Sometimes you may want to have links between a cell and a specific point in space, okay, that's not associated with any cell. Like you draw something here and grab, and then you pull. Like, so it's something that you can use as a mod for cell crawling, or maybe you want to just connect the center of mass of the cell with that particular position in space. So if something pushes the cell will still have this anchor to where it was before, so you try to go back, or try not to move. Okay, so anchors can be used in this way, in those two ways. First, as a really anchor that does not allow your cell to move away from a specific point in space, or you can create an anchor in front of the cell that's going to push the cell towards it. Okay. Yes, accordingly different from the center of mass of another cell. Marcela, try to go to the folder and refresh it, Google folder, because this has been put a few minutes before the class. All right, so here are the highlights. So the ones that you'll be using more often is the create FP link. If you click that, you create link, self new FP link, and then here initiator is the first cell. Initiator is the second cell. So cell A makes a link with cell B, okay? Well, the links are symmetric, so it doesn't matter if it's A and B or B and C or A. And then you give us another parameters, the lambda distance, the darker distance, and the maximum distance, which is the distance at which the links break, okay? The other thing you'll be using a lot is the option delete an FPP link, okay? So you will have to go over the cell. Once you have the cell, you call this option here, self remove all cell FP links, and then you get rid of all links of the cell. They all are the cell is connect from the rest. Okay. So basically, that's what it does. This is the same line, right? It's a single line. It's just that I cannot fit on the screen. So this is the lambda distance. We are talking about this parameter. Target distance. We are talking about this parameter. This is whatever distance the two cells have at the moment. Okay. And this is the first cell and the second cell. All right. Okay. More questions? Okay, this is created by any cells. Okay. When you create those, when you select focal point plasticity from the wizard, okay, and you have a simulation with, let's say, 3 cells, it's going to create all the possible links between all those 2 cells. You unlock the local tag, and then these allow to create links on a Python level between all those different cell types. Okay. So here, this comment here assumes that you already have a hold of what the cell 1 is and what the cell 2 is. So usually when you do that, you have a loop over the cells of type A, and then maybe a second loop over the cells of type B, or you're visiting all the neighbors cell type A, and then if you want the neighbors cell type B, you grab the cell type A, you grab cell type B, and you put those 2 objects as the first and second arguments of this command. Yeah, either 2 nested loops before that, or you have already say, or maybe a simulation only have 2 cell types, so you already know where they are. So it assumes that you already have a hold of those 2 cells in your code. Yeah, 2 nested loops would be a way to do it. Okay. More questions? Yeah, so usually you need a neighbor tracker for this one. So that's always why it's good to have a neighbor tracker selected when you're dealing with links. Yes, please. How to randomly assign links to the neighbors. Well, if you grab a cell and go over all the neighbors, you can, in principle, assign links to all your neighbors. If you want to assign to only a subset of them or only the first neighbor on the list, you grab the first one, create a link, and then you use the break command, and then you're gonna stop the loop, and then you want to assign to the first one that you encounter. Another way, you grab the list of all the neighbors, right? Go over them, store in a list, you sort the list, and then you go over the first three ones, and then you just add to those first three. Or as you go, well, that would be to do something according to the specified number of links of the cell. Another way is that as you go over the neighbors of one cell, you always flip a coin, use a random number generator, and with that you decide it's going to make the link or not. So this is going to be a way to randomize. Yeah, so if you just store out your cell neighbors in a list, sort the list randomly, and then visit the first three entries or the first four entries, will be a way to make sure that you only make 3 or 4 connections and discard the rest. Okay. All right, so with knowing that we can use those links to create and delete those links in cells, let's use this new power that we have at hand to explore a different process. And here's going to be the motivation slide, which will be cell crawling revisited, because we have already made a model of cell crawling, cell migration. Let's talk about cell crawling again. So usually when you look at 99% of papers out there about cell migration, okay, and there are a lot of them, they always talk about cell migration on a flat substrate, which is, and the reason for that is because if you want to study cell migration, it's already a complex phenomenon. It's hard to visualize cells, so people usually look at cell migration of, they grab a cell, take out the environment, put in a petri dish, and let the cell start crawling on it. So usually you see cell crawling on a substrate, okay? And that's the typical textbook view of how cell migration is. So what I've done so far in CompCell, even in my previous 6.1 session, was a cell migration on this type. A cell is migrating over a flat surface, okay? And that's okay. We have to simplify our biological systems to study it, right? But it is also fair to say that in many situations you do see cell migration on flat surface in vivo as well, and that's the case of this lateral line migration in zebrafish embryos. Those cells, these groups of cells, they are migrating along some kind of carpet of chemokines that the cells use as a guide or to go, and you see the movement of the lateral line in zebrafish, okay? So in many types, the cell migration actually looks like that in vivo. The movement of the neurocrest cells right after neurulation is also, the cells are migrating over a flat substrate. So these kind of models are good for it. However, in many cases, the cells are not migrating on a flat substrate. The cells are migrating inside the tissue, deep tissue migration. So the cells are moving between the tissue, right? So that's usually the case for neutrophils and macrophages, right? Your immune cells, they have to migrate not only over the outside of our organs, they have to go inside your organs, right? To find the whatever is causing damage to your body. So the cells have to migrate, not using a flat substrate as is track, but using the other cells as track. Okay, so and then of course in this case, the way that cells migrate is by creating these protrusions, right? Grabbing other cells far away and then retracting to make the cells move and squeeze between different cells. There must be adhesion sites that the cell grab, make the adhesion site, grab, and then make a stress fiber and pull it. Okay, it must be something like this, right? Well, different cells may have different ways to do it, but I imagine that it have to be through the user protrusions, right? The cells have to be grabbing other one, pulling, grab another one, and pulling, and then you may have multiple grabbing sites to pull and propel itself forward. Okay. Okay. So if you want to make a model like this, okay, what would this model look like? Yeah, links can grab over this. So links, in the sense, would be a good way not to model the adhesion connection, junction adhesion between two cells that are very close by, but it can also be used to model those proteins that cells make itself very far away and then pull itself. Okay, and this is a way to model this thing on comp cell without necessarily make a change to the cell shape. Okay, so you have a limited resolution in comp cell, and not all the cell proteins can or should be modeled as lattice sites on the grid. You can just create a long distance link between two cells and pull them together. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So if you think about how can you make a model like this? Okay. Maybe we can make a model. Maybe you can think about that. So if this is a cell, you can clearly see this protrusion of the cells. Okay. So the cell is clearly monopolar and is propping itself towards the right. Okay. And what you can see is that, okay, maybe you may think of this in a simple terms. The cell is polarized along this direction, and maybe they can make up to n number of connections, right? And all these connections in the front of cell to the right can be within this kind of angle range, okay? And then the cell exert protrusion, make a link between the cell and then pull itself towards it, and that will make the cell propel to the right. So here on the bottom is a simulation does exactly like that. All cells are red. You have this yellow cell here. We call the crawler, and this crawler makes links with the cells in front of it, and the target distance between links is, let's say, 1 or 0. So they grab those cells and want to pull toward its center of mass, and as it does that, they move forward. But what you also have to do, you have not only to create those links, right, and put stuff forward, but you have to let go of those links, right? Delete them, and then create new ones with a new neighborhood as soon as you pull this out. So you have to pull, release, create new ones, pull, release, create new ones, pull, release. Okay, so that would be a way to create, to have the cells move forward using the other cells in the environment as a track. Okay, so what we'll be doing now is going to create this, not this simulation, but a simulation that looks very similar to this one. Okay, that's going to be our next exercise. Yeah. So for this simulation, you can either go directly to the simulation folder and download the file 6.2.3a, or you can go over the steps and write a simulation by yourself. Yeah, target distance, maximum distance is going to be the distance between the center of mass of the two connected cells. Yes. Do you have parameter properties for cells that act as mass? No, not really. Yeah, the bigger you make cells, you require more spin lattice site flips to make it move. So that acts like mass in that sense. You can also adjust the lambda to compensate for that. So I'll give a few minutes to do this while I grab some more water for me. So you can either follow this instructions here or can directly download the base code for the next set of exercises. Hi, Melanie. It should be the cell neighbors here. There's one. Yeah, this is something that you definitely want. Also, the neighbor order in the links is set how far the cell two cells have to be in order to they start interacting and making a new link between them. Okay, so that can be set up either globally for all the cells or individually between different cell types of cells. So that information is here on slide 10 of the presentation. Yeah, I see a different slide to show where the cell neighbor tracker is. Yes. Yeah, it's not really neighbor tracker, it's cell neighbors, right? Let me fix that. Okay. Okay, so did everyone get this base simulation? The important things here to make sure that dimensions are 84 and on Y 35, and make both directions to be periodic. Okay. If you got lost, you can just download this file and you can start from this checkpoint. So is everybody good? Everybody's good, then we can go to the next slide. So if you all did it, you should get simulation that looks more or less like this. You should see red and yellow cells right here with links between them. Okay. Of course, you have to set up the colors to match this. But so this, if you get something like this, then you have something that's working as at least an initial step towards our simulation. So what you want to do now is make sure that the whole space is filled with red cells and red cells only, okay? And then on the focal point plasticity, let's uncomment the local tag so we can manipulate the links from the Python level. And let's make all the max number of adjuncts to be 0. So the cells only have the links that we tell them to have. And the other thing that you want is you want to make our cells look very mesenchymal, okay? So instead, so on the contact plugin, set our energies to be 2 instead of 10, from 10 to 2. Okay. Yeah, no medium, fill it completely. Okay, so on your uniform initializer, instead of having from, I don't know, from X from 20 to 70, let's make X from 0 to 84, and let's make Y from 0 to 35. So when if you are done with the exercise, you should get something, the instructions are still here. You should get something that it looks like this. So do you got something that looks similar to this? Yes, okay. If you don't want to actually do these modifications, you can go to the next checkpoint file, which is 6.2.3.b, okay? If you download this file, you should get the red simulation that looks like. Your red is blue. I think that's fine. You know how to change the cell colors, right? Yeah, okay. Okay. So now this we have a bunch of mesenchyme, right? What you want to do now? You want to grab one of those cells at the very beginning of the simulation and make sure that it's a crawling cell. In principle, can be any cell that you want because you have figured out bound conditions, but maybe I should have done the exercise like this. But you may just select grab one cell, very specific point space. So if you want to, let's grab this cell here and make it a crawler cell. What you can do, you can go to now the steppable file, okay, under the start function, because we want to do this at the very beginning of simulation and at the beginning of simulation only. Go over all the red cells, check the center of masses, and grab the one that has a center of mass between 721, that is sites in the x direction, and between 14 and 80 and 28 lattice sites on the y direction. Okay, so that once you find that cell, you change the cell type to cell dot crawler type. Okay, and once you find the cell, you just break the loop. Okay, so you just have one crawler cell in your simulation. So try to remove that, and if it works, what you should see is that one of the cells will be yellow. Okay. Actually, there is, Cheryl. There is. You can, there is a way to grab a cell at a specific lattice site coordinate. So you just specify a coordinate like at 14 and x and 30 and 21y, okay, and retrieve the cell at that particular place. Actually, maybe I can. Okay, maybe I can show you here. So one way to do this is, let's say you are on the Python level, and then concentrate Python, get cell at pixel. You grab the cell that is a coordinate 10, 11 tel. So if you do this, 14, 21, and Z0, you're gonna just directly grab that cell. And after that, you make change the cell type. So you can make cell dot type equals self dot crawler. And that would be another way to do exactly what we did here. Maybe it's easier. Okay. Yeah, so this will avoid loops. In avoid this statement, you grab directly it. So this is another way to do. So if you place this exact code at the start function, you should also change its cell type into from red to crawler. Okay. Where is that set of snippets? Okay, again, I'll do it again. You go here, comes out to the Python, okay, cell manipulation, and then get cell at pixel location. That gives that first command, and then to change cell types, you should get just one cell. So as soon as you grab the first cell, you write break, and then you get one cell. Although if you have more than one cell, it should not be a problem. Okay. Then to change the cell type, here. So Compartments Python, cell attributes, cell type, you get the command to change the type of the cell. No, this is to grab the type of the cell. Sorry, to change it. I don't see an option here, but the way you do it, you just write cell.type equals self dot, and then the name in caps lock of the new cell type. Okay. All right. How's everybody doing with the exercise? Do all of you got a yellow cell here? If you got two cells, it's fine. It's okay. Okay. I'm gonna just show here the code that I use to do it. I do a loop on the start function, do a loop over the cells. If the cell center of mass on the axis between 721 and 1428 on the y direction, okay, I change the cell type to crawler, and I use break, and this break command gets you out of this for loop. Okay, so then it's sure that you only grab one cell. Yes, the get cell, the pixel method, you should guarantee to get only one cell. Each pixel coordinate can only have one cell occupying it. So you cannot have more than one at the same pixel. Okay, next we're going to teach the model again. I'm going to do the grab cell pixel, which is much simpler. So now let's implement the model, okay? So to implement the model, remember that the model has a few parameters. Okay. So here I'm gonna basically just tell you what to do, okay? So the model has some kind of maximum angle parameter, okay? And once you to define, okay, which cells in front of the cell we can grab. So are you consider to a narrow angle or consider to a wide angle, okay? So, and then you also have to do some kind of trigonometry to discover this angle. So we use the math function from Python. So what you want to do is first, at the very beginning of our Python steppables, you want to use the command from math, import everything. Okay, so you can grab all the math functions that Python has. Okay, and the other thing you want to parameter make a set of parameters on the top of a simulation. So you're going to define some global parameters called maximum angle to define, okay, how wide you can be your range of capture of the cells in front of it. Okay, and also once you create a link, you have to define what to be the lambda of the constraint, what is the target distance, and what the maximum distance. So you can set all those parameters as global parameters in your Python header, and you just set the numbers here. So the maximum is going to be plus or minus 50 degrees, okay, up and down the x direction, okay. So 100 degrees in searching angle capture, okay, and then the lambda of the string of the constraint, let's say that's 2. Let's make the target distance 0, so it's grabs and wants to pull all the way through to the center of the cell, okay, and the maximum distance at which the link breaks, let's just set that to 1,000, which means you'll never break, okay. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, okay, but it doesn't hurt to have global defined there, because what you have next are classes, right? And then this makes sure that it will be available for all the classes that you have after. So this is done outside the steppable. It's done at the very beginning. Okay. Okay, so I'll give some time for you guys to type this out on your own code, okay? But usually it's a good idea to, if you have a set of parameters, to place not have the values placed directly at the code, but have those parameter values separate from the code on some kind of list before. That's a better good programming practice. Okay, here are all your list of variables, so you can quickly find them. So here you have not implemented the model yet. You are just typing out the parameters that make the model, right? So the criteria for creating the angle, right? And here's going to be the strength of the links once they are created. Then move forward. So after you do this, it's time to actually go to the code, implement the model, okay? So in the step function, what I want to do, you can just write this 2 line of code, and what they do is the following. The first condition on my if statement is I only would do something if my time is bigger than 5,000 multiple steps, okay? So this ensures that your cells have enough time to adjust their shapes. So 5,000 maybe is too much, maybe 1,000 is already enough for this model. Okay, and the second condition, you're doing a division of the time by 50, and you're doing the following comments only if your time is multiple of 50. Okay, so you want to only execute the code if you are above 5,000, and if you are on multiples of 50 multiple steps, so going to be, you do the codes after the if string at 5,000, 5,050, 5,100, 5,150, 5,200, and so on. Okay, so that's what's going on line 25. And on lines 26, 27, instead of write the code to delete links and write the code to create links, I actually create 2 functions there, a function called delete all the links and a function called create links. So these are the things that I define in the code, okay? And I'm gonna show them how to do. So if your code you want to do different things over and over again, instead of just typing down the code to the links followed by the code to create links, okay? What I want to do, you can make them separate and be their own little function after. So we have a little function, delete links, and a new function, create links, separated. That the way your code looks more nice. It's more neat and more easy to understand, okay? You not have lines of code that keep going to the right, okay? So line 26, 27, we call two functions. One is to remove all existing, oh, it's not files. It should be all existing links, if any. So let me fix this. Not files. Links. Okay, that's better. Another one to create new links based on the criteria of those angle. Okay, so so when you create links and you create a function and you call those functions, you have to use a self dot name of the function and the arguments. In this case here, it has no arguments, and these functions are created by using the def command here. So let me go to the next slide. So this is going to be the function delete links. Okay, when you write your own function in CompSell, you have to always give the self as the first argument. And here in this case, what this delete links function do, it goes over all the cells of type cell crawler, okay, and you remove all the cell FP links from that cell. So it's basically that. This one you can grab from the menu, CC3D Python, visit all cells of the same type. And the other one here, you can go to CC3D Python, FP links, remove our FP links. So, and then you get those two commands here. So, or you can just type the way I have it here. So when you create the function, you use the def name of function, first argument self. If there's no more argument, you have nothing else, and then the commands. But when you call this function from inside other functions, you have to use the self dot in front of it. So these are little details about how to create functions inside your steppable. Don't worry about typing this. You can just grab the final code at the end of the module, okay? It's more important that you look at here on the slides and understand what's going on, okay? But it seems that most people have already done with this part. So let me move to the next, okay? So here is the create links function, okay? So this is a little bit bigger, okay? And let me walk you through the idea behind it, all right? So the behind is that you go over first, again, I'll loop over all the cells of type self-crawler, makes sense? And then what you do a loop over all the cell neighbors, okay? So you're grabbing all the neighbors of that cell, the immediate neighbors, okay? And then if it's a neighbor, so this ensures that your cell is a neighbor and not the medium, okay? What you do is you get the distance from your cell and the next neighbor as a set of Cartesian coordinates, okay? So this x, y, and z are going to be the delta x, the delta y, and the delta z between the center of mass of your cell and the center of mass of the neighboring cell, okay? So from this set of coordinates, so this is invariant distance vector between the cells, so it's given the vector coordinates of the distance between those two cells, right? From this, you can actually calculate what angle those two cells are with respect to the x-axis, okay, of the simulation. And the way you can grab the angle given those coordinates is by using the a tan2 function that is a built-in function from the Python library. Okay, so the first variable should be the y, second to be the x. So and that when you give this, it returns the angle that this vector has. So it's going to tell whatever it's 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 90 degrees, or minus 30 degrees, and minus 90 degrees between the cell, or it's on the other side of the cell. All right. So but this function returns the angle in radians. Okay. Radians, there's radians as a unit for the angle is perfectly fine. but degrees is more natural for us. So what you can do, you can convert whatever angle that you got out of it into degrees. And then what you can do, you can take the absolute value of this angle and compare that with the maximum angle that's set up at the beginning. So right at the beginning, we set this variable here. Where is it? Yes, max angle to be 50 degrees, okay? And now you're using this max angle to see if your angle of the cell in front of it is within the 50 degrees, okay? And then if it is, okay, we make the link between the cell and the neighbor. And then you have to pass the lambda, the target distance, and the maximum distance to create the link, okay? So do you all follow the logic of this? I will make a poll, not for wherever you completed, but well, let me know if you have any question. Does all these comments make sense? So quick recap, you go over all the step crawler, then you go over its neighbors, right? You get the vector coordinates between the distance between the center of mass of your cell and its neighbor. And then you calculate what's the angle that they have with respect to the x-axis. And if this angle is within the maximum angle that you allow for the link formation, you actually create a link within the cell and the neighbor, okay? So you can make sometimes just one cell, you will satisfy the condition, sometimes 3 cells will satisfy the condition, okay? And then you do that, you make the links, the cell pull on those neighbors, and then after 5 Monte Carlo steps, it revisits here again, it deletes all the links, and make new links. Where the variable links declare is here. So self.new FPP link, and then there where you create the link. This is a variable that's created at the moment that you create the link. And you don't need to use that for anything. It's just a way to, if you want to then store that and delete the link later, this link has this ID. It's just that. So when you have this and run the code, okay, you should get something that looks similar to this, okay? And the code for this is actually available on file 6.2.3 D, okay? And if you, I know that I went a little bit fast, so what you can do, if you want to play with this code already, you just grab that file and open the code, and the code already be right in front of you. You can just play and see how it happens. And when you can change the lambda, you can change the target distance, you can change the maximum angle, play with that and see how the model behaves, okay? The CSA is short for common surface area, as Corinne said, is gonna just tell how many, what's the boundary link between your cell and your neighbor. Yes. So this is an exercise that shows how to create links dynamically. So when you are creating links dynamically, you want to not only create the links according to some specific criteria, but you also usually want to remodel the links all the time. So it's very, very common that you have to create the links, delete the links, create the links, delete the links and create again, create the links and create again. If you only create the links and let it stay like that, the cell gonna make just the first step and be stuck there, okay? So you have to, for the cell to move to crawl, you have to constantly create and delete the links so you can actually grab and move forward. So when you walk, you don't do one step, you do many steps, right? And for your second step to happen, you have to let go of the first step. So in this case, you do not really control because you're just going over the first cell neighbors. So you're basically only grabbing all the cells that are within 50 angle degrees. If you want to have more cells, you can make your angle to be wider. So you can make a ramp up to 90 degrees, and you're going to still move to the right. If you start to make it much higher than 90 degrees, plus or minus 90 degrees, then you start to grab cells on your back, and then your movement will not be very good. Okay. And at the same time, if you make your maximum angle allowance to be too short, you're going to only grab the cell whose central mass lies right in front of it. And that's not a very good way to move your cell, because you're going to grab the cell, you're going to pull it, and then the cell is going to still be in front of you, then you cannot grab another cell to move. So if you make a maximum angle like to be plus or minus 10 degrees, it will also be a bad choice. A more realistic model is allowed to not grab the cell that's your immediate neighbors, but also grab the cells that are far away from it. But then it's a bit more complicated, because you not only have to go over the first neighbors, but you have to also go over the neighbors of the neighbors, right? Or you have to go over all the cells and check if they are within a minimal distance. And there are ways to make this very efficiently, but that requires a lot of coding. And then not something that's appropriate to do as an exercise here. Okay, so with this, I'll stop here. I already show how to manipulate the links on the XML code, and also how to manipulate the links on the Python level. I did not have time to show how to use the anchors. Okay, maybe I'll do first thing tomorrow. But the set of slides have exercise not only do this, but also do the anchors and do other things like modern conversion extension. And then the idea is to do the same thing, like the cell actually puts from both sides at the same time, and then you can actually produce a conversion extension for tissues. But that's where we'll stop the class for now.